Subscribe to the channel and hear even more exciting stories. I found my husband's secret life. This changes everything. Hey Reddit, throwaway account because honestly, if my friends or in-laws read this, my life would implode twice over. Call me Liz, 34F, and for the last 7 years, I was the poster child for happy wife, happy life. At least, that's how it looked on Instagram. Smiling vacation selfies, date nights, an anniversary tradition of handwritten love notes. My husband Dave, 38M, was the kind of guy other women joked about cloning. Charming, successful, doting, a whiz with our toddler, and the world's most over-the-top birthday gift giver. But here's the thing about perfect. Sometimes it just means you're really good at hiding messes in the closet. Looking back, there were little things, but I brushed them off as quirks or the cost of a busy, high-achieving marriage. Dave traveled a lot for work. Sometimes on short notice. Always with a flurry of apologetic texts and souvenirs to ease the guilt. There were the weird hours he kept, and how he got super defensive if I joked about being a corporate widow. But that's modern marriage, right? 2 careers, a kid, a mortgage, everyone's hustling. I ignored the red flags because I wanted to believe our story. My friends envied me. My family adored him. Even when he missed our anniversary dinner last year because of a client emergency, I just sighed, rolled my eyes, and posted his apology flowers on Facebook like proof I was still lucky. It's wild how you can train yourself to call denial optimism. So, that's where we start. Me, in love with a man who made me feel chosen, safe, and seen, right up until the moment I started noticing the cracks. If you've ever thought, that would never happen to me, let me be your cautionary tale. The thing about secrets is, they're always closer than you think. The first real wait, what? Moment came on a Tuesday night. A night I almost let slide. Dave was supposed to be home by 8. Our daughter had drawn a crayon family portrait and was so excited to show him that she waited up, yawning in my lap. 9 o'clock rolled by, then 10, and I started texting. His replies were weirdly clipped, one-word answers, and the kind of typos he never made, even when rushed. He finally got home after midnight, acting flustered and mumbling about a blown meeting and a dead phone battery. The old me might have believed him. But that night, when I tossed his suit jacket over a chair, a folded-up gas station receipt fell out. It was time-stamped for 7:11 p.m., the other side of town. The only thing he'd bought: 2 energy drinks, some snacks, and a pack of breath mints. Something about the mix made my stomach flip, but I still tried to laugh it off. Long meeting, huh? I joked. He stiffened, then brushed past me, saying he needed a shower. But I noticed he locked his phone in the bathroom with him, twice. That's when the hairline crack started in my trust. I tried to reason it away. Maybe he was just tired. Maybe he didn't want to talk about a bad day. But the weirdness didn't stop. He'd started getting a lot of calls at odd hours, always stepping outside to take them. I'd catch him deleting messages and calendar notifications as soon as he got home, or saying, "It's just work stuff. Babe, you wouldn't understand." Maybe I could have let it go, but suddenly I was seeing the pattern in all the little things I'd ignored. The last-minute business trips, the unexplained charges on our credit card, client lunches, honey. The way he always needed to catch up on emails late at night after I went to bed. It all added up to something I didn't want to say out loud, but I felt the shift in my bones. And, as it turns out, once you start noticing, it gets impossible to stop. The seed of suspicion was planted. The perfect image was starting to blur, and I wasn't sure I was ready for what I'd find when it cracked wide open. You'd think after the late night, breath mint receipt incident, I'd have gone full FBI. But at first, I just hovered in this miserable limbo. Half convinced I was being paranoid, half certain I was missing something huge. For a few days, I tried to gaslight myself. You're just stressed. Everyone has off weeks. Don't be that wife. But then another odd charge popped up on our joint credit card. A bouquet of flowers delivered to an address I didn't recognize. Definitely not mine, and not his mother's. That was it. Curiosity and, okay, pure dread, finally won. I started small. I accidentally picked up Dave's phone one morning after he'd left it on the kitchen counter, supposedly while helping our daughter with her cereal. Instantly, the home screen flashed a preview of a message from someone named A. Just an initial, no last name. The chat was locked, but the preview read, "Miss you already. Next weekend, my heart pounded in my ears. I wanted to throw the phone, to march into his office and demand answers. Instead, I set it down and made my daughter's lunch with shaking hands. Later, while Dave was in the shower, I scrolled through his Instagram followers. There were a few new names I didn't recognize, mostly women, some with vague bios and accounts that had only existed for a few months. One, Amber L., had left flirty comments on a handful of Dave's photos. Hard eyes, inside jokes, a string of "you're the best" posts. My stomach dropped. I started snooping, not because I wanted to destroy my marriage, but because I needed the truth. I looked through our shared calendar and found odd gaps, blocks of meetings that didn't fit his normal routine. I double-checked his work emails on our shared tablet. Most of the work trips he'd claimed were legit, but a few destinations were flat-out lies. He hadn't been in Boston last month. The hotel charge was from Chicago. That's when I realized I couldn't trust a single thing Dave said anymore. Not about work, not about his whereabouts, not even about who he was texting when he said just the team. I was scared of what I'd find, but I was more scared to stop looking. Because now, not knowing felt like its own kind of betrayal. The more I dug, the more I felt reality warping, like I'd stepped into someone else's marriage, and my perfect husband was just playing a part. It wasn't a single gotcha moment. No lipstick on the collar, no dramatic hotel confrontation. It was a slow-motion avalanche of evidence, each piece worse than the last. The turning point came one afternoon while I was folding laundry in Dave's tablet, the one he always left out, thinking I never used it, pinged with a calendar reminder. It was set for a lunch with Lila. The name meant nothing to me, but I clicked anyway. That's when I found a hidden email account signed in on the tablet's browser. It wasn't his work or personal, just a weird Gmail address with a jumble of numbers. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the tablet. But the urge to know was stronger than my fear. I scrolled through the inbox, my stomach churning. The emails weren't just flirty, they were full-blown love letters. There were plans, jokes, even talk about our spot and your favorite wine. There were receipts for jewelry I'd never seen, Airbnb reservations, and photo attachments of Dave with another woman, smiling, holding hands, looking, frankly, happier than I'd seen him in months. In one photo, he was wearing a hoodie I'd bought him last Christmas, arm around a woman I now knew was Lila. But that wasn't the only secret. There were emails about money. Odd transfers to accounts I didn't recognize, Venmo requests from women with suggestive emojis, even cryptic conversations about keeping everything separate. My head spun. Was it just infidelity, or something bigger? A second family? Affairs in every city? Or something illegal? I felt like I was underwater, gasping for air. I took screenshots of everything, backed up every file I could find. My hands were ice cold. I had to stop, sit down, breathe, and force myself not to scream. All I could think was, this is not my life. This is some nightmare version of my marriage where I'm the fool at the center of a web I never even saw. When Dave got home that night, I watched him kiss our daughter on the forehead, ask about my day, slip into dad mode like nothing was wrong. It made my skin crawl. I wanted to shout, to cry, to throw the tablet at him and demand he explain every single lie. Instead, I smiled back, dinner on the stove, the biggest secret of my life burning a hole in my chest. I knew the confrontation was coming, but I had no idea what would happen when I finally dropped the mask. The next morning, I woke up knowing I couldn't pretend anymore. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe as I watched Dave go through his routine, brushing our daughter's hair, making coffee, humming to himself like he wasn't the lead in a soap opera from hell. I waited until she was safely at preschool, the house empty and eerily quiet. Then I set the tablet and a stack of printouts on the kitchen table, right next to his mug. He came in, glanced at the pile, then looked at me. "What's this?" he asked, too casual. I didn't bother with small talk. "Sit down, Dave." He stared at the emails, the photos, the account transfers. At first, he tried to bluster through it. "These are private, Liz. Why are you snooping in my stuff?" I didn't flinch. "Because you lied to me, over and over. Who is Lila? Who are these other women? What have you been doing with our money?" His face went through a dozen emotions, shock, anger, then, surprisingly, relief. "You weren't supposed to find out," he said, almost softly. "It wasn't about you. I just needed something else." I laughed, bitter and cold. You needed a whole secret life, Dave. You have a daughter, a wife. You're not just cheating. You're living as a different person when I'm not looking. He stammered through excuses. He said he loved me, but he'd gotten lost. That work stress pushed him into bad decisions, that it didn't mean anything. Then he flipped to anger, said if I'd paid more attention, maybe he wouldn't have needed an escape. It was the oldest story in the book, and somehow, it still cut deep. I didn't cry. I told him I'd seen enough. I'm not here to fix you. I'm done pretending this is a marriage. I want answers, and then I want a lawyer. That's when he really started panicking, apologizing, promising therapy, blaming childhood trauma, anything to claw his way out. But I was past the point of negotiation. For once, I wasn't the one making excuses for him. I was done saving a man who didn't even want to save himself. The confrontation didn't end with fireworks, just a cold, heavy silence, and the realization that my whole life was about to split wide open. After Dave left that morning, slamming the door, mumbling a final, "We'll talk later," the house felt like a bomb had gone off. It's wild how betrayal can make even the walls seem unfamiliar. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the printouts, trying to wrap my head around how someone I loved had morphed into a stranger right in front of me. I didn't cry at first. Shock is numbing. My body was on autopilot. Cleaned up the dishes, checked my email, answered work calls. All the while, my mind looped. What do I tell our daughter? My family. Part of me wanted to text my best friend, spill everything. But the other part, ashamed, humiliated, kept whispering, "Don't air your dirty laundry." So I told no one. For a full day, I just lived with the ache, alone. That night, in bed, it all hit at once. Rage, shame, grief for the life I thought I had. I sobbed into my pillow so hard I got a headache. Every memory from the past few years twisted with new meaning. Every business trip, replayed like a cruel joke. I'd trusted him, defended him, built my entire world on a foundation I never even realized was hollow. I cycled through every stage of heartbreak, shock, denial, bargaining, anger, exhaustion, sometimes all in an hour. The smallest things wrecked me. Our daughter's crayon drawing of mommy, daddy, and me. A leftover mug with world's best husband on the side. I wanted to smash everything, but all I did was sit in the dark, clutching my knees, feeling smaller than I'd ever felt. It didn't help that Dave kept texting, calling, sending long emails about how sorry he was, how broken he felt, how he never wanted to hurt me. I wanted to scream. You wanted 2 lives, and now you have none. Instead, I ignored him. He slept at a hotel. I deleted his contact photos. I blocked Lila, Amber, and every mystery woman I could find. I'd like to say I felt strong, but mostly I felt lost, adrift in a storm I never saw coming. But somewhere in that numbness, a stubborn voice started rising. You deserve better. You're not the one who should feel ashamed. I wasn't there yet. But for the first time, I believed I might get there someday. Telling people was like ripping off 100 Band-Aids, one after another. I started with my mom. Because who else do you call when your life is on fire? She cried, not just for me, but for the granddaughter she adored and the son-in-law she'd bragged about to everyone. There was shock, then anger, then a strange defensiveness. Maybe he's just going through something? Are you sure it's really that bad? As if I hadn't brought the evidence, laid out in neat, excruciating rows. Friends reacted in every possible way. My best friend practically flew to my side with a bottle of wine and a playlist of angry breakup anthems. Others, especially the couple friends, went silent. Nobody likes to pick sides, but everyone has to, eventually. There were whispers. People speculating. They seemed so happy. Did you notice anything? Suddenly, my business was public property. I felt naked and exposed. The hardest part was talking to our daughter. She was too young to understand, but old enough to sense the shift, the tension in the house, the phone calls behind closed doors, Daddy moving out. I kept it simple. Mommy and Daddy need some time apart. We both love you so much. Her response, quiet confusion, sad eyes, broke my heart all over again. Then came the practical mess. Bank accounts, the house, shared friends, childcare. Every part of our lives was knotted together. I found myself in endless calls with lawyers, trying to untangle finances Dave had hidden with his private side hustles. There were emails from women I'd never met, some apologizing, others angry, a few as blindsided as I was. Trust? Shattered. Not just in Dave, but in my own judgment. How could I have missed this? How could I have let myself become a background character in my own marriage? I started questioning every decision, every memory. And yet, in that chaos, a strange clarity set in. My daughter needed stability, and I needed to reclaim my story, not just as the wife who got cheated on, but as someone capable of surviving betrayal and building something new from the ashes. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I was ready to stop apologizing for the choices I made to protect myself and my child. And for the first time in a long while, that felt almost like hope. If you'd asked me a year ago what I'd do if I found out my husband had a secret life, I'd have given you a naive, romantic answer. We'd go to therapy. I'd fight for us. I'd want to fix things for our child. The reality, though, when it happened, my first instinct was pure survival. I wasn't interested in rebuilding what Dave had torched. I wanted my sanity back. I met with a lawyer the day after that first, gut-wrenching confrontation. She was calm, thorough, and completely unfazed by the pile of printouts and digital receipts I'd brought. "This isn't your fault, Liz," she said, not unkindly. "You're doing the right thing. Let's get you and your daughter protected." For the first time since the truth detonated my life, I felt seen. Not as a jilted wife, but as a person who deserved better. I started divorce proceedings that week. No dramatic fights or threats, just a cold, clear ending. Dave tried every tactic. Tearful apologies, angry emails. For the sake of our daughter, guilt trips. Even a last-ditch, "Let's try counseling." But every plea sounded hollow, like he was fighting for the idea of our family, not the reality he'd destroyed. The practical work was exhausting. Separating finances, selling the house, explaining to our little girl why Daddy wouldn't be tucking her in anymore. There were days I felt numb, going through motions on autopilot, school drop-offs, bills, laundry, court documents. Nights were harder. I'd lie awake, the apartment too quiet, replaying old arguments and love notes, feeling equal parts grief and rage. Was any of it real? Had I ever really known him? But through the fog, I started to find small moments of relief. I no longer jumped at every text or felt the cold dread of wondering where Dave really was. I could breathe in my own space again. Friends, real ones, kept showing up, reminding me that life existed outside the wreckage. The biggest shift? I stopped blaming myself. I let go of the urge to understand his reasons or shoulder his shame. I realized I wasn't choosing divorce out of anger, but out of respect for myself and for the life I wanted for my daughter. For the first time in years, I was choosing myself. And that decision, terrifying as it was, felt like the beginning of something honest. In the months that followed, life became a study in contrasts. Some days, I felt like I was conquering Everest, getting the keys to my own place, finally sleeping through the night, laughing with my daughter about nothing at all. Other days, grief blindsided me. Triggered by a stranger's cologne, a song on the radio, or a random Facebook memory that made the old us look so happy. I poured my feelings into journals, therapy, and late-night phone calls with friends who refused to let me wallow too long. If there's one thing I learned, it's that healing is not linear. You can go from feeling invincible in the morning to crying over spilled coffee by noon, and that's okay. I started giving myself permission to feel it all: anger, sorrow, shame, hope. Without judgment. I spent a lot of time replaying the past, picking apart every moment for missed signs. I remembered Dave's dismissive jokes when I asked about his meetings, the way he'd pivot conversations whenever I got too close to the truth. I realized I'd let trust become a form of denial, because trusting him was easier than facing what my gut already knew. I also reflected on what I wanted for my daughter. More than anything, I wanted her to grow up seeing her mom as someone who chose honesty over comfort, who set boundaries even when it was scary, who valued herself enough to walk away from disrespect. I didn't want to model a marriage that was all smoke and mirrors. I wanted her to see that love without trust isn't love. It's an arrangement, and arrangements can be broken. Surprisingly, I found gratitude, yes, gratitude, for the chance to rewrite my life. I forgave myself for ignoring red flags, for believing too hard in happily ever after. I even began, little by little, to forgive Dave. Not for his sake, but for mine. Carrying all that anger was heavy, and I was tired. I learned that boundaries are not walls to keep people out, but bridges to something better. And I learned that my gut is a voice worth listening to, because the truth really does find a way out, no matter how deep you try to bury it. Looking back, the hardest part wasn't losing Dave. It was losing the illusion of safety I'd built around him. But I gained something far more valuable: the courage to trust myself, to speak up, to draw the line. If you feel something's off, don't ignore it. Your intuition is never your enemy. It sets you free.